is the spiny desert of the island of Madagascar. You can see how over 100 million years ago it fit nicely into Africa. And there's the equator and the two tropics, and you can see how that tropic of Capricorn is crossing right through the middle of the spiny desert. Now, the weather patterns in this part of the world are such that they're coming from the east to the west, so that the mountain range is precipitating out moisture before it hits the west of the island. That's why you've got the desert here on this side, as opposed to what would be happening in our portion of the world. Very old land. All of the birds, animals, creatures, plants have evolved in isolation a very long time. This is the only location, along with the Comoros Islands to the north, where lemurs have won out in the evolutionary race over other simian creatures. So a couple dozen species of lemurs are found throughout the island in their various habitats. And the plants equally are unique. 90% of what is there is endemic, a high degree of endemism. Then we come to our portion of the world. And up here in Cleveland, North America and South America, and then we've got this very modern new landmass joining the continents. Only about maybe 7, 8, 9 million years old. This land bridge solidified, allowing travel of animal and plant life back between the two continents. In the central portion in the raised highlands is a cloud forest. A cloud forest differs from a rainforest. The rainforest is what most people would have in mind if I were to say the word jungle, and they would think, what does that mean? And they would think, okay, I know what that is. It's a rainforest. And they'd be right, because at sea level, the hot, tropical, always bathed in moisture lowland is rainforest. But if you raise the elevation and have a moderate temperature, if you took a rainforest and lifted it upward into the Monte Verde Mountains, you would have a cloud forest. That's the only difference. So it's cooler, it's temperate, much like the climate that you would experience in our Pacific Northwest. Once again, in isolation, the creatures that live there are evolving into unique entities. So there's a high degree of endemism there. Not as great as over there, because it's not 100 million years old. You're talking about less than 10 million years old. This landmass, much newer. We're going to go through the movie room. You can see that on your own at any time. Basically what the movie is doing for lay folks, contrasting in male and female voices answering each other back, the different features of the cloud forest versus the spiny desert. We're going to walk into the spiny desert, going first where there is moisture in the Onsalo Heights, which overlooks the desert floor, and then look on to the desert floor itself and talk about the plants, the birds, the animals, and various relationships that exist there. In Madagascar, growing on the central baobab tree, which is artificial, but the central baobab tree, representing a 300 or 400-year-old tree, there is a vine, a green dark vine with alternate strap-shaped leaves. Vanilla madagascariensis, one of the better quality vanillas in the world. Ours does flower and fruit. It fruits as a elongate green bean-like structure, looking just like a green bean, and it's in there that the dark seeds are taken out, they're washed, dried, and then processed into that very expensive real vanilla if you go to the store and buy that. And then when we get to the second biome, the cloud forest of Costa Rica, you'll meet the chocolate tree. And our chocolate tree is both in flower and in fruit now. You'll see that it has a kind of a unique growth pattern that many trees throughout the tropics have is called cauliferous. And that means that immediately out of the limbs, white small flowers develop, emerging directly from the wood. And the fragrant little teeny white flowers are visited by insects, and that will cause the pod to develop. It's that pod that's like a squash from which we extract the dark seeds and process into theobromine cocoa, which is the predecessor of chocolate. Are called succulents. Succulents being the greater category, which includes cactus. Cactus are a subdivision in succulents. And these are the aloe, A-L-O-E, one of which is known as the burn plant. And they all have the same mucilaginous clear fluid, which were you to cut yourself or burn yourself, you would love to have some of that mucilaginous clear fluid to rub on the affected part, and it takes away the pain. Plants give you clothes, they give you food, they give you medicine, they give you so many herbal, culinary, and medicinal purposes, it would take days to explain it all. But this is one of the many aloes related to aloe vera, the burn plant that many people like to have in their house, is they have a kitchen. So we're in the Isalo Heights, overlooking the Spiny Desert. This two-tone pink flower that I'm holding from this particular plant back here is one of the most important plants in here. This is a medicinal plant that we use to this day because the fluids this plant produces are the most effective treatment over any synthetic that we have possibly developed. It's called the rosy periwinkle, Pathorhamphus roseus. It treats childhood leukemia and Parkinson's disease. And it manufactures vinblastine and vincristine, powerful chemical compounds that are the best for those respective diseases, the most vicious being that childhood leukemia. So you can grow that as an ornamental. You can put it in a pot, put it in your windowsill. Obviously it won't overwinter here in Ohio, but you can take it out for the summer, and it looks much like the common vinca, which is a native plant here, but that one is not. That's an exotic, but it comes from the old world, and one of the places is the Spiny Desert. They have spines. There are 4 purposes to spines, no matter where in the world the plant is. Spines, they cast a little teeny bit of shade on the trunk, on the main stem, cool you down. Good strategy for the desert. Another strategy, prevents herbivory. You don't want to be eaten. So no animal, no critter wants to get a mouthful of spines. So that's number 2. Number 3, they're woody structures, even though they're sharp, and they look like an appendage. But they're woody, less need to have broad vegetation which would desiccate in the desert. So that's number 3 purpose. 4, and the most difficult for some people to visualize, every desert in the world has a drastic fall off in temperature at night. Significant difference in that 100 degrees during the day or whatever the temperature in that particular desert is versus what happens at night. That change in temperature allows that plant to harvest a droplet of water overnight due to the temperature change. That droplet of water runs down the spine, and its morning cup of water or coffee or whatever it's doing for that plant is available. And that's the fourth purpose achieved by having spines as opposed to something else. So 4 different purposes for spines from whatever desert in the world the plant comes